Tonight, we go to a small museum in the town of Saugues, in the heart of rural France. The museum is dedicated to a wolf. The wolf is slightly too large, has a stripe down her back, and between the summers of 1764 and 1767, she is said to have killed more than 100 people across a single province. Don't go up the Margeride alone. Stay with us tonight. By the end of this story, you'll see a face no historian ever drew. What current AI image generators imagine, built from the period descriptions alone. If this is your first visit, take a moment to subscribe. There's always a place for you at the fire. The Margeride is a range of granite hills in south-central France. In the 18th century, it was the province of the Gevaudan, a poor, rural, deeply Catholic country where the parish church was the only authority for miles, and the king's writ was something carried up from Paris by a courier on horseback when the courier could be spared. The villages were small. The winters were long. The wolves had always been there. It is the late spring of 1764. The Curé of the parish of Saint-Étienne des Lougardès is writing in his register, a birth, a marriage, a death, the small records of a small life. Outside, the cattle are on the high pasture. The women are at the washing stones by the creek. The young women of the parish walk the lanes between the hamlets with their skirts gathered against the mud. Nothing, yet, has gone wrong. On the last day of June, 1764, a young woman of 14 named Jeanne Boulet does not come home from the cattle. Her name goes into the register the next morning in the curé's careful hand with no further detail. The parish walks the hillside. By the second day, only a fragment of her shawl is found on the path that runs above the hamlet of Les Ubac. The curé writes a second entry. There is no body to record, and so there is no body. The summer of 1764 is hot and dry. The search goes up into the Margeride and down again. There is a witness, a young woman of the parish who was walking near a clearing when something large came out of the trees and then stopped, as if considering, and then turned away. She cannot say what it was. She cannot say what color. She is sure of only one thing. It was too large to be a dog, and too deliberate to be a wolf. The parish begins to do what parishes do. There is a procession to the chapel of the local saint. There are prayers at the altar. The curé lights an extra candle. The local seigneur writes to the intendant of Languedoc in Toulouse. The intendant writes to Versailles. The lines on the page get longer as the summer goes on, and the entries in the curé's register are not all births. By November, the story has reached Paris. The Gazette runs its first account. The curé's letter is reprinted. The witness is paraphrased. The illustration is invented. The illustration shows a creature the size of a young bull. It has a wolf's head. It has teeth that are too large. It is shown standing over a shape that is not drawn. 2,700 livres are offered, a year's wages posted by the crown for whoever brings the animal down. What follows is 3 winters of sightings in parish after parish across the province. Some are by shepherds on the high pasture. Some are by women at the washing stones. Some are by dragoons on patrol. The descriptions agree on certain points and disagree on others. It is large. It has a wide chest. Its coat is reddish down the back. Its tail is long and active. Its teeth are visible. It does not act like a wolf. It acts, several witnesses say, like something that is not afraid. The engravings that come out of Paris over the winter of 1764 to 65 show a creature that is recognizably canid, but cannot agree on which canid. One shows a striped beast with a sloping back. One shows a maneless lion's body on a wolf's legs. One shows a creature with a dog's head and a wolf's tail and the proportions of something that has never existed. The parish calls it la Bete. The crown calls it a wolf. The witnesses in their letters hedge. The Curé of Les Ubacs and the Magistrate of the local seigneury meet in the doorway of a stone cottage in the snow. They're talking about what to do. They're talking about whether the line in the register for the latest death should read mort par la bête, or whether that is a presumption. They do not agree. The curé writes the line both ways, on different drafts, and chooses one for the register and keeps the other folded in his desk. By the winter of 1764, the Gevaudan is on every front page in France. Versailles reads the dispatches. Louis XV is old. Louis XV is tired. Louis XV has just lost an empire to the British and is not in a mood to lose a province to a wolf. He offers more money. He sends dragoons. He sends a captain of the local garrison, a man named Duhamel, who rides south with 30 men and a great deal of confidence. Duhamel's hunt runs through January and February of 1765 and finds nothing. The attacks continue. Duhamel is recalled. The crown sends instead the king's own arquebusier, a man named François Antoine, who has killed wolves in the royal forests for 30 years, and who brings with him his son, his hounds, and a commission signed in the king's own hand. He arrives in the Gevaudan in June of 1765. He is 60 years old. He is the most experienced hunter in France. The Curé of Saint-Étienne de Lougardès opens his register to a fresh page in the spring of 1765. The page fills by midsummer. Each entry is a name. Each name is someone who went out on the high pasture and did not come back, or who came back without a memory of the day, or who came back at all but only because someone shouted at the right moment from the right field. "Don't go up the Margeride alone," the parish began to say, in the curé's voice, in the magistrate's voice, in the voice of every mother in the province who could still be heard over the bells. We will come back to the curé's register, but first, the hunt. Duhamel's first campaign, in the winter of 1764–65, has gone the way of campaigns. There are patrols, and there are sightings, and there are shots fired at things in fog that turn out in the morning to be stones. Duhamel is recalled in disgrace. The Crown decides that the matter requires someone with a longer acquaintance with the animal. François Antoine arrives in June of 1765 with 8 horses, 13 hounds, his son, and a small detachment of dragoons. He is given a free hand. He walks the parishes. He speaks to the witnesses. He notes in his journal that the creature in the engravings is not the creature in the testimony. He sets out to find what is, then, actually in the Gevaudan. The summer of 1765 does not produce the creature. Antoine's hounds run the forest for weeks. They tree animals that are not the one they are looking for. Antoine begins, in his journal, to write in a register more weary than confident. He decides to wait for winter, when the snow will hold a track, when the bare branches will not hide a moving shape, when breath in the cold air will tell him where the animal is. The parish, in his journal that autumn, in his own hand, copied a sign nailed to a church door at Saugues. On the morning of September 21st, 1765, after 6 weeks of patient work, Antoine's son catches a glimpse of something large in a clearing above the hamlet of Les Tourelles. The hounds are loosed. The animal is run to ground in a thicket. Antoine fires once. The animal that comes out of the thicket is a wolf. A very large wolf, gray, weighing by Antoine's later measurement more than any wolf his experience has held. The body is taken to the village. The body is sent to Versailles for examination. At Versailles, the wolf's body is examined by the royal naturalist. The naturalist's report is courteous and inconclusive. The wolf is, the report says, a wolf. The wolf is also, the report says, unusually large. The bounty is paid. The Crown declares the matter closed. Louis XV, in a letter preserved in the archive, allows himself to be pleased. Within weeks of Antoine's kill, the attacks resume. They resume in the same parishes. They resume in the same pattern. The witnesses describe the same animal. The animal is, the witnesses say, the same one that has been there all along, and is not, therefore, the wolf that Antoine sent to Versailles. The crown's pleasure does not survive the winter. The winter of 1765 to 66 is the long quiet. The Gevaudan does not sleep exactly, but it goes indoors. The cattle are brought down from the high pasture. The lanes are walked in groups. The Curé's register fills more slowly, and the entries he writes are sometimes survivors and not deaths. The province has learned at last to stay close to the village. The province is waiting. The theory that begins to circulate in the spring of 1766 is that there were always two. The animal that Antoine killed in September was a wolf, an unusually large wolf, perhaps abetted by other wolves, perhaps the reason the parish was so afraid. The animal that took Jeanne Boulet in 1764 was something else. Modern scholars working from the parish records lean toward this view. The parish in 1766 did not need the modern scholars to lean anywhere. The parish knew. By 1766, the Gevaudan case is no longer a regional story. It is a national story. Engravings come out of Lyon, Paris, and the German towns to the east. Pamphlets are printed. Theories are advanced by everyone from the curé of one parish to a doctor of medicine at Montpellier who is convinced the creature is a hyena escaped from a menagerie. The province is famous. The province wishes it were not. Into this national story, in the late spring of 1767, walks a local hunter named Jean Chastel. Chastel is devout. Chastel is also an excellent shot. He has been watching the case from the edges for 3 years, and he has, he says, his own idea of what is on the Margeride. He does not say the idea to the dragoons. He does not say the idea to the magistrate. He says it, according to the local tradition, only to his son, and only on the day before the kill. On the morning of June 19, 1767, Jean Chastel walks up from the village of Pont-des-Langues with a single musket and a prayer in his mouth. He takes a position in a clearing above the hamlet of Les Taillères. He waits. Sometime around noon, a creature comes out of the trees. The creature is, by the accounts that survive, very large. The creature is, by the accounts that survive, the creature. Chastel fires once. The creature falls. The parish comes up the hill. The creature is laid out on a sheet of linen at the village square. What is found, in the local tradition that survives in the parish register and in the pamphlets printed that autumn, is that the creature was very large, that it had a wolf's body with a stripe down its back, and that Chastel had, by his own account, loaded his musket with a bullet cast from a piece of silver, a bullet that, in the older tradition, would have been the only kind of bullet that would do. The attacks after June 19, 1767, end. The Crown declares the matter closed for a second time. The province, this time, allows itself to believe it. Whether the creature Chastel killed was the creature that took Jeanne Boulet in 1764, or whether Chastel killed one of two, or whether Chastel killed something else entirely and the original creature simply left, are questions the parish records cannot answer, and the pamphlets do not try to. The Gevaudan, after June 19, 1767, is quiet. 257 years later, the town of Saugues has a museum. The museum is small and white and dedicated in its entirety to the creature. There is a taxidermied wolf in a glass case. The wolf is slightly larger than a wolf should be. There is a faint red stripe along its back, painted on by the museum's curator in the early years of the museum. The gift shop sells postcards. The gift shop sells a small ceramic figurine of the beast holding a wooden cross in her mouth. The school children of Lozere visit on Tuesday afternoons. The Gevaudan case is one of the founding texts of modern cryptozoology. Every few years in rural France, a large cat is reported, a puma, a lynx, sometimes a beast that does not match any known species. The French Wildlife Services investigate. The French Wildlife Services in 2024 are still investigating. The Margeride is one of the regions where the reports cluster. The Margeride is one of the regions where the witnesses, even now, do not always come forward. The silver bullet Chastel is said to have used, in the traditions that grew up around the kill in the years after 1767, becomes the silver bullet of the modern werewolf. The tradition flows, in the centuries since, through the German forests and the Hungarian steppe and the New England woods of the 19th century and the horror films of the 20th, until the silver bullet is, today, simply the werewolf's vulnerability. A piece of folklore so familiar that no one remembers where it came from. The Gevaudan is where it came from. The Gevaudan is where it started. The other thing that survived is harder to name. In the Curé's register, the names of those lost to the beast are written in the same hand as the names of the baptized and the married and the buried of natural causes. There is no special mark. There is no marginal note. But in the small chapel above the village of Les Aubacs, where Jeanne Boulet was born, a small bunch of wildflowers is laid at the end of a pew at the end of every August. No one in the parish will say who lays the flowers. The parish, in 2024, still does. We have spent this hour with a creature no one has ever seen. A creature that exists, for us, only in the descriptions left behind by parish and notary and the surviving pamphlets. Tonight, before we close, we asked 4 current AI image generators to draw her, using only those descriptions, nothing else. None of them had ever seen her. None of them agreed on what she looked like. We are going to show you what they drew. Here is the first. A she-wolf, larger than she should be, standing in profile in deep fog. Her coat carries a single dark stripe down the spine, the stripe that the witnesses kept describing and that no wolf has. The fog hides her paws. Her eyes are turned away from the viewer. She is not moving. She is, in the way that AI image generators often fail to render and sometimes accidentally succeed at rendering, watching without watching. Here is the second. A heavier beast, standing against weather on a Margeride hillside at dusk. Her shoulders are too wide for a wolf. Her ears are rounded. Her head is too thick. She watches, but she does not move toward the camera. This is what current AI image generators produce from the period descriptions. Not a likeness, an interpretation. 2 centuries from now, perhaps, the curators at the museum in Saugues will hang one of these prints on the wall next to the surviving engravings, and the school children of Lozere will look at both and decide which one to remember. Don't go up the Margeride alone. If this episode helped you see the past a little differently, subscribe. There's always a place for you at the fire. Next time, we go to the limestone hills of Central Texas, where a killer vanished into the night, and the city pretended it didn't happen. The Margeride, at first light, is quiet. The parish church roof is just visible through the fog. There are no figures present. There is only the bell and the wind and the long quiet of a place where something terrible happened, and the records ran out.